Let's talk about this law school admission cycle because a lot of people are freaking out for no reason. You've probably seen the big scary headlines that applicants are up 25% year over year. They're up 50% over the past 2 years, and this is the most competitive cycle ever. And it's true that applicants are up, but people are missing the part that actually matters, the LSAT score distribution. And that part is way less scary than the headlines make it seem. Let me explain this in the simplest way possible. Think of it like you're going to a restaurant and you see a massive line outside, and so you assume you're not getting a table. But then you realize everyone in line is waiting for the patio, and inside it's basically empty. That is what this cycle is like. Everyone's looking at the big, scary applicant numbers, but when you look at where applicants are actually scoring, it's not nearly as bad. Most LSAT score ranges aren't blowing up. The middle, the 150s and 160s, isn't nearly as crowded as last year. And there is a tiny spike in applicants scoring above 175, but that always happens early in this cycle and typically disappears by January. And so the people you're actually competing with, there aren't suddenly way more of them. So let me break it down by score range without drowning you in the numbers. If you're scoring in the 150s, this is actually a pretty good year for you because competition here is growing the least. If you can get a few points more on your LSAT, it can completely change your admission cycle. If you're scoring in the 160s, this was a disaster zone last year, but this year it's way more normal. If you can get just a tiny score bump, it's going to make a massive difference. And if you're scoring 170 or above, you're going to be fine. That little early season spike always ends up flattening out. And so if you're scoring in the low 170s, a retake is definitely still worth it. And if you're in the mid 170s, you're already in great shape. And of course, the new LSAT format will help you a great deal as well. As you may know, there are no more logic games on the LSAT. They've replaced it with a second score logical reasoning section, and the new LSAT format is easier to study. It's more predictable and it's more learnable, more coachable. And so if you're considering an LSAT retake in January or February, definitely worth it. I always say better to apply a bit later with a higher LSAT score than earlier with a lower LSAT score. And if you're worried that applicants are up, will that make your chances worse? Yeah, it's certainly not going to help, of course, but law schools are always looking first and foremost at the LSAT medians, the median LSAT score that they're looking to target to raise their status in the US News rankings. And so if your score is final and strong, if you're already set, I recommend applying now if you haven't yet already. Applying early will still help you with getting scholarship money and getting into better law schools. And if you're considering a retake, I always say go for it if you have time to study. If you can take it in January, February, it's still going to help you, not too late. And you do want to build a smart school list, of course, a couple of reach schools, a couple of target schools, and a couple of safety schools. Always take a few more shots at higher ranked schools because, hey, why not? You want to maximize your options. And of course, this cycle isn't even halfway over. Score bands shift every single month. Schools are constantly adjusting, and wait lists activity still moves later and later in the cycle. Most people give up way too soon. Don't let that be you. And so the good news here, if I had to summarize it, is that your competition isn't exploding the way total applicant numbers have. Your LSAT score still has a great deal of power. Retaking still works. Strategy, as always, still matters. And you can change your entire cycle odds between now and the test in February. While this cycle is competitive, it's not the apocalypse people are making it out to be. You've still got a lot of control, and you can absolutely make this cycle work in your favor. You've got this.